Hi, I'm Adam Drake from Mugen Seiki Racing. Today I'm going to talk about engines and how to know when your engine is low on compression and is in need of service. So I get this question often. Guys, it kind of comes to the end of their race season. They've been running the engine, runs good all summer long. And they kind of want to know, hey, is it time for a new engine for next season? Can I extend the life of the current engine? There's no real meter or gauge or way to tell. So I'm going to go over a couple little things that you can look for or characteristics that may let you know if your engine is getting close to the end of the road, and also what some of the options are to potentially extend the life of your engine to maybe get through a couple more races or even an additional race season. So first I'll go over some of the things that you may notice on the track if your engine is low on compression and getting towards the end of its life. So typically with an older engine, you'll lose bottom end because you have less overall compression. The engine will actually gain RPM on top, or it's kind of like that old saying where they say, you know, it was running its best before it blew up. A lot of times an older engine will have even more top speed than a fresher engine. But you'll notice that the delivery of the power, the low end power, is going to be a little bit softer, not have as much pop on exit of the turn. And then the main thing that you'll see or notice is if you come into the pits after a race and the engine used to idle really good, you could come in, let it sit there, temp the engine, do whatever you need to do before shutting it off, and it idles fine. When an engine's getting old, it doesn't have as good a seal. So when you come in after running the engine hard, you stop in the pits, you get ready to go temp it, and the engine dies. That's one of the first signs that the engine is, again, low on compression, may have a little bit of blow by, and that's what's causing it to not hold that idle when everything is fully saturated with heat. So another option that you can use to kind of check to know if your engine is low on compression is if you remove the engine from the vehicle. Now, you need to do this after everything's cooled, and basically you can just take the engine, hold it by the flywheel, and just kind of like shake it or rock it back and forth. If the engine holds itself up, it still has really good seal, and in most cases, you should be totally fine without doing anything with the engine. Now, if you hold the engine by the flywheel and it just automatically falls over on itself, it doesn't have very good compression, and more importantly, it doesn't have that great of seal. So a few options. You could go ahead and replace the engine altogether with a new engine, which in most cases that's not the option anyone wants to hear, but typically if you can start the season with a fresh or a new engine, you shouldn't have a problem making it through a whole race season with that same engine. The next option would be to replace the piston sleeve and rod set. One thing to remember when doing that though is if you're going to spend the money to replace the piston sleeve and rod, you should probably also replace the bearings just as a precautionary measure. If you're going to put pretty much all new internals, you might as well also change the bearings. And then if you're really on a budget, or if everything inside the engine looks good, there's no scars or scratches on the piston, you can actually resize the piston and sleeve. And that's a service that I offer, as well as a number of other people. But basically what that's doing is you're taking a piston and sleeve that has been run, has lots of fuel through it, 10 or 12 gallons, no longer has good seal, and you're resizing the sleeve to now match it with the worn piston and to give it some of that compression back, and more importantly, that seal that will help it idle and have a more consistent tune. Now, Be careful though, because when you're resizing the sleeve or you have someone resize the sleeve, make sure it's someone that you know and trust, because you don't want to resize the sleeve too tight, because you have a connecting rod that's used, has a lot of fuel through it. You could even replace the rod if you want, but in most cases you're just trying to extend the life, get a couple more gallons out of the engine. So it's not a bad idea to resize the sleeve, give it a little bit more seal so the engine will hold itself up. With an engine that has good seal or still has good compression, you're going to experience a much more enjoyable time at the track. The engine's going to run more consistent from start to finish of a tank, be consistent through long main events. If you have an engine that's getting tired, it's not holding its tune well, it can make nitro racing really frustrating. So it's very important to keep your engine in tip-top shape, and it'll make your racing a lot more enjoyable.